Okay, so we're COMP2068, and this is week 8, lesson 8, part 3. Part 3. And we just finished talking about how to set up our template here, right? I've got a bunch of, if you notice, I've got my reference paths up here. My reference paths are good because now when it comes to code hinting, I'm not getting any errors, right? It's okay, brown sugar, I just started, don't worry. All right. I know, man, it's the time. It's the time frame. We're sitting at 12:40. That's why, there's a lineup at Timmy's. Okay, so cool. I've got this going. I want to make my game use my plane, but I don't want to just make it a bitmap like this. We did a class last time, didn't we? Right? With TypeScript. And I want to do the same thing now, but I want to extend my class one step more, one step further. I want to take one step. I just started. Don't worry, guys. I want to take it one step further. Cards work there?
Yes, fine.
No problem. It's okay. TypeScript, we kind of did this last time with, thank you, sir, appreciate that. We did with TypeScript our own little module, right? And we used the modules in TypeScript to create classes, right? We did that last time. We're going to do the same thing this time, except we're going to make our own unique plain class. And we're going to go with, so to make Rob happy, right? What we're going to do is we're going to extend bitmap class today, right? I know, we're going to go to the next level today and actually use inheritance for the first time with JavaScript and TypeScript. Now, you guys did inheritance in Java, right? Just recently. So this should be a nice little treat. First of all, let's get rid of this crap because we don't need this right now, right? Okay, cool. I'm going to create a new file in scripts and a new folder. So I'm going to kind of minimize this. And if you follow me here, this is what we need to do. We're going to right click on scripts and I'm going to go add folder, new folder, right? And my new folder is going to be my objects folder, right? This is where I'm going to keep all my game objects. I'm going to have my, when I say game objects, I mean plane, my cloud, all that stuff is going to be here, right? In my objects folder, right? Now I haven't started yet. I'm just making, all I did was make an objects folder so far, right? I'm going to right click on my objects folder and I'm going to go add and I'm going to create a new TypeScript file. Here's my TypeScript file. Okay, and of course I'm going to call this plain, all right, lowercase. Of course, Visual Studio serves up an empty page for me and now I got to create a new module. Remember how we did this last time? Here are the 4 steps. Module. My word module. The name of the module. It's going to be called the objects module. Now you can make this game objects or something else in your universe, but for me it's just objects, right? And again, this is up to you, right? Inside my objects module is where my class is going to go. I'm just going to make this a little bigger for you guys to see it, right? I'm going to make my class in here, and I got to use the exports keyword, or it's not going to be available. Export, right? My class, which is going to be called plain, capital P, and I need to use these curly braces. Are you with me? I made a new module. Objects is the module, is the namespace that I'm creating, right? And I'm making a new class called plain. Okay, this is cool. Inside my plain class, though, before we used to make a constructor, I'm going to do the same thing, except I'm going to add another little word here. So I'm going to go plain. This is for Rob. Extends create.js.bitmap. Okay, what am I doing here? As soon as I say extends, now I have a different relationship with plain and bitmap. Plain is a relationship with bitmap. In other words, my plane is a bitmap. It's not anymore just a plane. It is a bitmap, and I've extended the bitmap object. It means I'm using inheritance, right? And what's happening with my bitmap object now, I can use all the properties of the bitmap object, plus, on top of that, I can do other things. Okay, so that's cool. I'm going to create my constructor, right? Which is not normally what we do. And of course, it's going to give me this error. The error that's going to come up is going to say, hey, man, it's going to say, constructor for derived classes must contain a super call. Super means we're going to access the superclass. God, doesn't this sound like familiar stuff, right? So we're going to go here, we're going to say super, And of course, what are we passing to the super class? Well, we're passing the bitmap object. Let's check this out. It's exactly what we did before. It's going to be assets, the asset loader, dot, get results. Inside there, we're going to put plane. Okay? Are we cool? I'm using it, I've just created a bitmap with a plane inside of it. Okay? If I save this thing now, just to see what the JavaScript looks like, I get all this gobbledygook, right? I got this little new extends function, which is up here. That's how TypeScript solves the problem, right? For inheritance, because there really isn't what we call class inheritance in JavaScript. And then, of course, we have our closure right here, this self-executing anonymous function that we use here for closure, which simulates a class. But for now, this is all you need, right? So these 4 lines is all that stuff, all that code, right? Okay, cool. So this is cool. We've got our superclass plane, right? Now we got to add in a couple more things. First of all, I want my plane to appear for my game at a certain point, right? I want my plane to appear at 430 a y coordinate of 430, all right? Which is close to the bottom of my screen. My screen is 640 by 480. I want my plane to be at 430. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to say this dot y, because my plane is a bitmap, so it has x and y coordinates. It's already there. I'm inheriting my y and x coordinates, right? This dot y is equal to 430. Okay, that's the first thing I need to do. I'm also want to track my plane with my mouse, right? Track my plane with my mouse. And of course I can do that by saying this dot y dot x, right, is equal to stage dot mouse x. There's actually a mouse x property for the stage. But this is not really going to do anything for me, is it? It's going to do it one time. So I put my mouse on the stage the first time, it's done. And afterwards, is it ever going to go here again? No. Because I'm not telling it to do anything. It's only going to do it the first time in the constructor. When I create my new plane class, it's going to take the position of my mouse, and that's where my mouse is going to, my plane is going to appear. Let's leave it like this for now to illustrate that. Okay? So this isn't really the complete class yet. So I'm going to go to game. I got to instantiate my new object. How do I do that? Well, I want to create it in a global scope for now. So I'm going to go up here, and I'm going to say, here's my game objects. So here's my game objects, right? Okay, oh, hey, I'm adding a module. I haven't completed my module setup. How do I do that? Well, I got to go to my index.html, and in my index.html here, I've got to drag and drop in my new module that I just created, right? So here's my game, oops, sorry. Here's my game scripts, right? Like we did before. And underneath game scripts, I want to drag and drop. I'm just going to hide this for now. I'm going to drag and drop my plane.ts file so it's above my game.js file. And the reason why I'm doing it above my JS file is because this has to load first so that game.js can know about it. All right, it's just in order, right? Okay, cool, but I got one more thing to do for my module to work. I've got to drag and drop it so it has a reference path. All right? So here I'm just going to drag and drop my plane. It's got to be underneath my typings. So this is where we're going to have a little bit of play, right? So I'm going to drag and drop this. And then if you notice, it comes underneath my typings. It should be here. If it's above there, put it down here. And put it on its own little line here. Because we're going to have our typings here. So this is my first module that I've got. Now that I've got this, I can declare my plane, right? So I'm going to do it in the global scope. I'm going to say var plane of type, but what type is it? It's of type objects, because it's in my objects module, dot plane. So now I haven't declared my plane yet, right? I've just created a reference to it, and I've said the shape of my plane object is of type plane, the plane class we made. But I haven't made a new plane yet, and I don't want to do it here. I want to do it in here, right? So here's my main. I'm going to go down to my main now, and I should have access to it. I should say plane then, right, is equal to a new objects dot plane. And of course, I'm not passing anything in there because I'm taking care of all that. All right? Well, this is cool, right? And I'm going to add my plane to my stage. So I'm going to say, okay, so stage for now dot add child plane, just like we did last time. Okay, if everything goes well, and if I have no errors, I'm going to run this thing, and I get this. Hey, how come it didn't go where my mouse is going? It went down here, and look, it's below my stage. This is all a problem. Let's take a look and see if I've got any errors. JavaScript console, no errors. Well, I know why it's happening, right? First of all, my mouse is moving now. I have my game loop. So that means in my mind, in my game loop is where I have to put a function or some kind of thing in there, right? Actually, there's two approaches here. I want you to tell me the best approach. Well, I'll tell you the best approach, but I'll tell you the easier approach. The easier approach is to create an update method for my plane class and to fire up that update method inside my game loop. Let's do that. Right? So I'm going to go back to my class of plane that I created. Here it is. And inside here, I'm going to create a new method. Remember, methods in TypeScript, you don't need the word function. You just name it. So it's called update. Right? Here's my update method. I need to put in my parentheses and curly braces to describe what my method is. And now this .x is equal to stage mouse.x is cool, right? But I want to put that inside my update. Because every update, basically this is going to fire 60 frames per second. So it's going to keep track of where my mouse position is every update, every frame. Okay, cool. If I do that, and if I go back to my game, I need to, in my game loop, this is what's firing every 60 frames per second, my game loop. So in here, I'm going to put something like this, plane.update, right? And now when I kick this thing off, if I refresh my screen, right? I'm just going to go over here, it closes off. I should have movement, right? You should have this now. Do you have this? Yeah? First piece, you're moving it. But I still got my problem. My plane, look at my plane. My mouse is here, and my plane is positioning itself to the bottom right. Yes? I'm on 0, 0. I got to reposition my the middle point, the focus, the registration point to the middle of my plane, right? So how do I do that? Well, this is where we can run into some issues, just warning you, right? If I go back to my plane class, and typically what we'd have is get bounds. But with our new version, Fandangle version of Create.js, sometimes it doesn't work. So example would be this. I could do something like this. When the plane, before I get my y coordinate for the plane, I want to do a get bounds. So I can do something like this. This dot, if I want to create a registration point, regx, right, is equal to this dot get bounds dot width, right, times 0.5. I guess I'm using times because of a thing. Now this is working, right? It's pulling up get bounds, but the problem is I really don't have a width and a height yet. You're going to see that in a second. This dot reg y, right, reg y, registration marks for x and y, is this dot get bounds dot height times 0.5. Now if I do this, just this, and if I refresh, I'm going to save and refresh, we might get an error. Or we might get this, working just dandy. See how it's working now? The middle of my mouse is where my plane is centered, right? You get this now, guys? Are you getting the same thing I'm getting? Because I've changed my registration mark to the middle of my mouse. Is it working? Okay, this is good. So I've got my plane movement back and forth. I'm building up MailPilot for you. So if you're going to do a side scroller, I want you to limit yourself too for movement, right? Don't allow your mouse to move all over the place. Right now I've only limited my mouse to an X. I can change my X position, but my Y position is always fixed at 430. Why? Because if I allowed unlimited movement, right? My plane is going to fly in weird patterns. My plane doesn't fly. In real life, plane doesn't go like this, whoo, fall over the screen, right? It's impossible. It makes the game too easy. So please, for your side scroller, don't do that. Unless you give some kind of lag or some kind of easing for your plane or something which we can talk about later. Yes? You could, but the thing is with the mouse cursor in Create.js takes up cycles, even to show up or disappear, and the function isn't that efficient, so I wouldn't recommend it. I can make the mouse cursor disappear, right? But you'll see that it really slows the game down. It's lag for me because I'm not on a local system like you. I'm using a virtual machine. You shouldn't see as much lag. Like your lag, it should be very responsive compared to me. I'm seeing lag because I'm on a virtual machine. Okay, that's this piece. Let's go back. Okay, so we've got the plane pretty much done, right? And my plane class is finished. I'm just gonna kind of, clean this up a little bit, right? And I'm gonna just add some code. I'm gonna go constructor, right? Here's my constructor. I'm gonna outline that a little bit. And this is my, I can add a access modifier for my update. I can say it's public, right? That's public method, so I'm gonna put in there public methods. Right, these are all my public methods for my plane. I only have one right now, right? And I'm just going to stop debugging for a second. So here's I'm stopping debugging. I'll make this a little smaller so we can get more space for you guys. And if I save, let's take a look at my class now from a JavaScript perspective. That's it. So it does almost the same thing. If you notice, I do my super call here. And I use my getBounds method just like normal. Everything's the same. The only thing is I'm using this extends method to inherit my bitmap object. So now my plane is a bitmap as opposed to just an object that includes a bitmap like we did last time. Okay? So we've made my plane. Okay, cool. Well, we need a couple of other options, right? We need an island. And my island almost looks exactly like this, right, for now. Almost, right? Except for it has some other properties, right? So let's do a couple things. First, I'm going to kind of, let's streamline this a little bit more just to take away my spaces here. Let's just copy this whole thing when we make our island. I'm going to go right-click on the objects folder, add, right? I'm going to go TypeScript file. I'm going to call this island. Okay, here's my new island. I'm going to cut and paste my plane class in there identically. It's just the same one. I'm going to change my plane to island with a capital I. Right? Okay, I'm going to change my get result from plane to island. Right? There's my plane to island. That's good. And now, just to complete my module, I'm going to drag and drop my island underneath my plane and my index.html file. Save that. In my game file, I'm going to drag and drop at the top of my screen my island over here, right? So it's underneath my plane. So I've created a reference to that. Now my module is complete. Now if I go back to island, in here, I can make some changes. I need this getBounds width for my registration mark. I need that. That's good. But I've got a couple of the things I'm going to do. I'm probably going to use my width and height again. So here's where I'm going to define my width and height of my plane, because by the way, width and height is an actual property of my bitmap object, yeah? So I want to define my width and height as opposed to, get bounds for my width and height over and over again. So I'm going to say one of these, this dot width, right? Hey, where's my width? It's a bitmap. How come it doesn't have it? Well, bitmaps are funny that way, and what we need to do is up here above the constructor, I'm going to create a new width property. Two new properties, and these are going to be public properties for now. Public instance variable, public variables we call them. I don't want to confuse you guys. And we'll make them public. And inside there we're going to say width, and another one is going to be called height. We're also going to make a private variable, right? So here's our private variable. Okay, and our private variable, we're going to make it private. And inside, remember we made private variables just as a convention. We're going to use the underscore. And it's going to be called dy. Follow me here for a second. Right? And you know what? We're going to set the dy value just at the top right away, if we can, to 5. Okay, we'll talk about what that is in a second. All right, so now this is cool. I've got my width and height property, but I've kind of declared them, but I haven't defined them. Now I can go this dot width, right, is equal to this, right? I need this piece. So I'm going to go kind of a cut or copy and a paste. And I'll do the same thing for height. This dot height, right, defining these properties is the height, right? Measuring my height for my height value. Now I'm doing that because I don't need to do it for plane, because I don't need to use that for plane. But for this, I'm going to need it. You're going to see why in a second. Here's my width. Oops. And you know what? I'll do the same thing for height. Hey, here's a question. From a performance perspective, is it better that I'm calculating my height width, or is it better that I put it in numbers? It's better that I put it in numbers for performance. Is it nice? No. But I could use constants for that. I could define a group of constants and use constant values that I know my plane and stuff. But if I ever want to swap out my plane, my image, like for you guys, you want to swap out your images, you don't want to make it so it's hard-coded, otherwise it'll be wrong. It won't work properly. Okay, so this is cool. I don't need this. This y is equal to 430. That's not true, because I want my island to fall from the top of my stage, right? So my y-coordinate then isn't going to start off that way. In fact, if anything, my y-coordinate is going to be is equal to a negative this dot width. Hey, whoa, what did I do there? I'm saying the value of width, of my width property, is the width, oh sorry, not the width, sorry, height. The value of my height, right, of my island, I want to make it so I get a value. I get like a number like 60. And if I say negative the value, it's going to be negative 60. Well, negative 60 is off screen, right? It's above my viewport, right? So it's going to start above my viewport from the size of the height. So whatever my height is, it's going to be just off the screen, right? And then what I want to do is every x, when I start off this thing off, I'm going to say this dot x, right? Instead of assigning it down here with a mouse x and y, right? My x coordinate is going to be random. So I'm going to say, because it's going to start anywhere along the top of the screen. How do I do that? I'm going to say this dot x is equal to math.random, right, times the width of my screen, right? So now again, we had the way to do that. There's actually a function to do that, right? So stage.canvas.width, if I'm not wrong. Now, it doesn't show you the actual value, right? I'm just saying it would be or dot stage width or something like that. I don't recommend you use that value because it's going to calculate it, and if you ever want to change it, it's going to be different. My recommendation is we hard code this one. So this is where we have an opportunity. For now, I'm going to put it at 640, right? But we're going to come back here and change this to a constant in a second. All right, so it's going to be from 0 to 640, the top of my screen. Somewhere on the top of my screen, my island is going to appear, right? Now, this is going to be a number from 0.0001 to 639.000. That's bad. So we want to round this thing by math.floor, which actually concatenates it to an integer, right? So it's going to give us a round number now, like a whole number. For pixels, it's better, right? You don't want to like percent of 0.1 pixel, 0.2 pixel. You want to avoid that. That's really going to slow down your game, right? Okay, cool. That's the first thing. So it's a random location up here. And you know what? Every update, every frame, I want to move my y position, right, is plus equals to this dot dy. And that's why I created my dy variable, right? Because my dy variable is set to 5. It's going to move down the screen 5 pixels, right? Are you with me? All right. So again, this gives me a random location, right? So again, set the island to start at a random x. That's what it does. Okay, let's try this out. So I'm going to run it now, and hopefully, if I haven't made any errors, I'm just going to get my first of all, I'm just going to get my plane. Here's my plane. I didn't set up my island yet. Let's set up my island. Let's go back to game. And on the bottom, I'm just going to stop debugging for a second. Go back to the bottom. I've created my island, but I got to set it up. Here I'm set it up now. So first of all, at the top, I've got to set up as a global variable, right? Var island is of type objects dot island. There it is. It appears, right? I'm creating a reference to it. And at the bottom here, I'm going to set it up as island is equal to new objects dot island, and of course I'm going to add it to the stage. Right? Okay, let's check this out now. And refresh. Oh man, where's my island? How come it's I don't know what's going on. What's happening? I know why. Because we forgot my update, right? Here I did my plane update. Now I got to do my island update, or else it's never going to move, right? Because it only moves on update, right? Let's try it now. There's a refresh. Again, I'm showing you this step by step because you're going to have these errors come up to, hey, there's my island, and there it's gone. Whoa, where'd it go? Hold on a second. Let's try that again. Here's my island. Oh man, my island goes on top of my plane. How come? Let's try. Let's show you that again. Watch. Come on, man. Oh man, my island's flying. It's a flying island. This isn't right. It's not right. Why? Because it's a display list, and the display list loads things up in order. It layers things in order. So I need to put my island first here, right? Here's my island up here, right? And then my plane. Yeah? Now let's try it out. I still got issues, right? I got a big issue. Okay, cool. There's my island. Oh, wait. Let me reload that thing. It's gone. There's the other island. Look, see? It went over the island, but it's gone. Well, what should I do? I want my island to come back. Come back, island. It resets, right? It's my island. I got to create a reset method. So here's a new method that the plane class does not have. Right? I'm going to go public. Actually, should it be public or should it be private? And my thinking is it's probably going to be a private method because I don't need to pass this on to anything else. I never have my island reset by itself, should I? Well, theoretically, no. Right? But let's just call it like this. So I'll say, for now, I'll make it a private method. In my mind now, I'm thinking we'll never need to use it. Later on, we might change this again. Yes? I could, right? But then that wouldn't happen for the beginning, right? And I would have to duplicate code. So I might as well create a reset method. So I'm going to say private underscore reset. And then inside there, in my reset, I want this stuff, right? I want this to reset. I want this random x coordinate to happen, right? And my y is going to be it's going to reset to the top of the stage. I'm going to call reset right here, right? So this dot underscore reset. I want to do that, right? So that now I've defined my reset, and it works exactly like it did before, right? That's the first thing. Well, in my update now, I'm going to create a way of resetting, right? So I'm going to check bounds, like you said, right? So let's do that. So I'm going to say, well, if this dot y is greater than, right, the stage height, which is 480. Let's leave that at 480 again for now. is greater than 480, right? But I also want to do plus the height of my plane, the height of my island, because I want it to go off stage. I don't want it just to equal to 480 because then it's like it'll only be halfway out before it disappears, right? I want it to actually leave the stage and then it disappears, right? So it's got to equal to plus my height. So let's go this dot height. So it's going to leave the stage. If it's greater than this right here, and I'll make it easy for you guys to see this, goes this 480 plus the height, right? If it's greater than this, then, and by the way, I didn't have to do that, but I just did it so for clarity, right? So I'm checking my bounds. If that's true, then call reset, right? Make sense? That's why I'm using reset in a method as opposed to, so I'm calling it one time here in the main, right, in the constructor, and I'm also calling it in here inside my update. Okay, this is cool. I like this. But you know what? I want to separate functionality a little bit in my update. So, you know, this is cool, but I want to make another function which I think is more reliable for us because we might need this later on, called, I'll make another private method, and we'll call this check bounds. Because right now our only boundary is the lower boundary, right? So that's cool. I'm going to take this stuff out of here, right? You see I'm going to build this up for you. I'm going to make it just a little bit more complex. And here inside my update, I want to go this underscore check bounds. I'm checking my bounds, right? To make sure that I'm not off screen. If I do, I'm going to call reset. So these are my private methods. This is my public method, and I'm good to go. Okay, I've got my plane class and my island class. Let us run this thing with the changes. By the way, let's take a look at what the changes look like for my island. Okay, got quite a bit of code here. Take a look. This is my island class now. Right, this is all the stuff that I'm doing. See this prototype property on the JavaScript? That's what it looks like. And I've got a few methods here, right? But again, I like the way this looks a lot more, right? This makes more sense, TypeScript, for me. I understand how to write this, and so should you. This is just regular object-oriented design, right? With a few changes. Okay, cool. Let us run this thing and test it out. So I'm gonna run it, and now if everything goes well, my island leaves the stage and it comes back. And it should be a random location every time, right? So I go over it. If I go over it, it's the right shadowing, and we're good to go, right? Any issues that you can see? So my island is going to give me my points, right? So every time I run over my island, I'm going to get my points. And it's going to go like that forever. Questions so far before I move on to the next piece? Two classes, island, plane. Question for you guys. Here's a programming question, developer question, right? I'm going to kind of pop up with these once in a while. Couldn't I have inherited my island from my plane class? Kind of. It's almost identical. But that means that there'd be a bunch of other things that wouldn't have. This is good. This would work, right? And then I would ask for whatever my get result is inside my island class. So I'd have to pass this through. I'd have to create a different kind of object, right? It almost looks identical. I could probably make so my island has width and height, or my plane has width and height too. Right now I don't need it, but maybe in the future I might. So that's not going to hurt me to put that this way. I don't need this private dy value though, right, from my plane. So this wouldn't be much. There is some similarity though. I do have a reset function. Sorry, I do have an update function. I don't need a reset or a check bounds. So there are some more functionality. So I could theoretically inherit. But here's where I think we should inherit, right? I'm going to make a cloud. What does the cloud do? Moves down, resets, right? Does everything that the island does, except now it's an enemy as opposed to an ally, right? This is where, and now you might say, hold on a second, how does island and cloud relate, right? Well, they don't really. From a philosophical business perspective, if I'm using it in a business sense, business rules perspective, islands in our mind, what island and cloud mean are totally different. From a game perspective, we have two objects that move down the screen, right, that do almost exactly the same thing. Why would I recode everything and copy my code again, right? But that harkens back to something else in my mind, if I'm a developer. Shouldn't I make something called a game object? A game object that all my other objects inherit from. My plane, my island, and my cloud. Right? I could inherit, and I could choose to use or not use certain properties and methods that are part of my game object class. So this is just a philosophical question for you. You could choose to use it, you can choose not to use this. I'm not going to do this at this point because I want to keep it simple and complete my demo. But I think you should think about this going forward. We see a lot of duplication already that can possibly happen. And from a planning perspective, we want to try and reduce this, right? Because it could come up as we're just doing it over and over again, same thing, right? Let's make our cloud class. Right click, yes. Good. There's so many ways of doing this, right? So I would make if I was going to make a super object or a game object, I would make the parameter take, in the game object only, it'd be an abstract class, because you can do abstract classes in TypeScript, which is beautiful, right? Never be inherited, or never be instantiated. And my game object class would take a parameter that would pass it into the bitmap, because it would be a bitmap, with all the stuff that I would want it to be in there. And then now I would do the exact same thing. My plane class would look identical to what it looks like now, except I wouldn't pass in get result. I would only pass in the name of the plane. That's beautiful, right? Well, let's leave that alone for now, because that's like multiple inheritance. Okay, or multiple levels of inheritance. Okay, so let's go and create a new object in my objects class, right? Let's go to add, and let's go to TypeScript file. I'm going to call this thing cloud. Okay, here's my cloud class. I don't really have it yet. I'm going to take my island class, because that's the closest class that I can think of. And I'm going to copy the whole thing. Here's my whole island class I'm copying. And I'm going into my cloud class and pasting. Okay, I've got almost identical stuff here, my island and my cloud. I'm just going to rename this thing to cloud with a capital C. Change this thing to cloud. Right? And I've got my first cloud, right? Everything's identical so far. Except for, I like this, right? But my dy value in my cloud was set to strict 5, right? Maybe what we want to do, my island, in my cloud class, maybe I want to make it variable. Maybe what I want to do is make it so that some clouds are faster and some clouds are slower, right? So maybe a random number. So I won't put it up here. I'll define it, but I'll put it somewhere down here, right? So everything else can stay the same, but my dy value, I want to kind of define up here as a random value. So this dot underscore dy then, right? I want to make it so that it can probably go, it's got to go at least somewhat faster or slower than could be a little bit slower or a little bit faster. So if it's going to be faster, maybe what I want to make it do is at least, let's say, at least 5 and up to 10. Ooh, that's pretty fast, right? 10 pixels per frame, right? Which is a fast-moving cloud, right? So it's going to be challenging. So how do I do that? How do I make a random? I'm going to do the same math.random. Might as well copy this piece right here, right? Here's my random. I want to use my floor again because I don't want to make it so that it's too crazy. So my dy value is going to modify. So it's going to go instead of 5, right? Again, I want to kind of give it between 5 to 10, right? So if I go 10 here, right, that'll go 0 to 10. 0 is bad, right? So that would be bad. Maybe if I made it 5, that would be from 0 to 5. And if I add 5 to it, right, that means it's going to be at least 5, could be up to 10. Do you agree? Right, so let's check this out. I got to do all my other work first for this one to create my cloud. I've got to do my module again, right? So I got to go into my index.html. I've got to drag and drop my cloud class underneath my island class. Here it is, right? So I've added this module. I've got to go back into my game class, and in my game class at the top, I've got to pass in my cloud as an object, like this. And you know what? In here, I've got to define my first cloud as a global variable, var cloud, right, of type objects, cloud, capital C. And down here, I definitely want to make my cloud fly over my plane, so I definitely want it after plane and over the island, right? So it's got to be here. So cloud is equal to new objects dot cloud with capital C and stage dot add child cloud. Okay, let's check it out. That should be enough, right? And run. Let's go. See if it's too fast, too slow, whatever. What happened to my cloud, man? Oh man, I forgot my update. Darn it. Again, cloud.update. Keep doing that, man. That's great. I'm doing it on purpose, of course, because you know, if I don't do this to you guys all the time, then you're going to go, I don't know why, Tom, but I'm not getting my cloud. I'm not getting my objects. They don't come off the screen like that. Oh, there's my cloud. Okay, cool. That's cool. Random location. And it looks like they're almost moving at the same speed, eh? What's going on? How come? They're starting at different places, right? And let's see if I can go under my cloud. Oh, yeah. My cloud layers nicely. Oh, there it is, moving slightly faster. And then again, okay, but why is it always moving the same speed? Well, because it only generates once. So once I've generated the first time, right, the speed of my cloud is fixed. So I don't want that. I want to do the dy on reset. Huh? One shape for the cloud. But we can always modify that later. Well, that means that this, if I go back to cloud, right, here's my cloud class. I'm just going to close up my plane and my island for now just to make it so it's easier. I'm doing this dy thing happening only in the constructor. That means that as soon as I create my object, it does it for the first time, right? But I don't want to do it for the first time. I want to do it every time it resets. It gives me a different speed to make it look like a different cloud. So I want to do that on reset, right? So this is where it's done. Yes, for now. But we're going to fix that. But for now, let's leave it one thing at a time, right? Because you're right. You're right. You're absolutely right. Okay, cool. That means now that I've put it inside reset, whenever I reset my cloud, right, I determine my random dy value. Okay, let's do that now. So refresh, and let's see how this looks now. Okay, cool. I got a slow-moving island. Slow moving. I shall refresh this. I got a fast-moving cloud. I got a really fast-moving cloud. Oh, what's going on here? It's almost the same location, eh? Oh, that's not bad. That's close by. Almost on top of each other. Look. Oh, they're a little bit different there. Oh, that's on top of each other again. That's a little bit different there. Some faster ones, some slower ones, right? But this is kind of boring, isn't it? So what we want to do is we got to add a little bit of drift, right? I want to make it so that I can go to the left or to the right. If I want to make it go to the left from an x-coordinate perspective, that's a negative coordinate. So that means I got to make it go from -2, let's say, a little bit of a drift, to +2. So it drifts a little bit on one side or the other. Or maybe -5 to +5 if you really want to go crazy, right? So how is it that I could add drift from minus to plus? Huh? I like the dx value. You got it. So I'll do the same thing. I've already got a dy value. So let's do the first step is do this. Right? I like your thinking. I know you like your following. Here's my dx value. And down in here, inside my reset, that's where I want it to happen again. I want to include this dx value that's random as well. So I might as well copy the dy value and put that in there. And this time what I want it to do, instead of dx, I want it to do dy, I want it to be dx. But here's where I can't do this. That means this is going to go from 5 to 10. It's always going to go to the right, right? I want it to go sometimes to the left. How do I do that? Once in a while to the right, once in a while to the left. And I don't want it to go so fast. Yeah. What formula can I use, Blaine, that I can, put together, Blaine, that I can, I'm challenging you. What's my formula in my random function here to make it go -2 to +2? What do I put? -2 to +2. How would I do that with random? So if let's just start this off. It can't be this. So if I do this, right, you know, if I go positive 2, right, and I want to subtract from it, right? I could, but that means it's always going to be negative. If I multiply by negative number, it's always going to be negative. Yes. I could. Huh? If I what? No. No. It's always a positive or negative. So here's the solution. So you guys didn't take too long. So I want to go positive 2, right? And if I subtract, I can subtract something. If I go positive 2 minus 4, right? Would that be enough? I'm going to give you some hints here. So if I go, that means this. I say I start off with 0 to 2, so it can be 0 to minus 4. That's too much, right? Because that means I can possibly get a 0, right? And that would only give me a thing. So maybe if it'll be 4, right? And if I subtract, it'd be 0 to 4, and I always want to subtract 2. That's the one. Because if I go 4, I go subtract 2 to 2, and if I go 0, it goes to minus 2, right? Or closer to 0. So I get a bit of a drift, one way or the other. This will drift both ways. So I'll just put a comment in there that says, add drift to the cloud class, right? Let's try this out and refresh and see what happens. Okay, so a little bit of drift. Let me just refresh. Pretty fast there. I don't see any drift happening. I don't see anything happening. Oh yeah. Hey, wait, I forgot. I gotta go into my update, and I gotta add in my y, right? My x. So I'm gonna go this dot x plus equals to this dot underscore dx. I gotta do that too in my update, right? Otherwise, I'm not gonna see anything. Right. See here, I'm building this up slowly. Each piece part I've got to account for. I got to think about it. I got to do this. I got to update my x. I got to update my y, and I'm doing it in different piece parts here, right? Okay. Let's check it now. All right. So a bit of left, a bit to the right, straight, a little bit straight there. Oh, a little bit of a left, more to the left, a little bit slow, right? Straight down. I don't get really a lot of right movement though, do I? Mostly left. Oh, there's a little bit of right, right? So now it's drifting both ways, so it can cause a little bit more issues, right? A little bit faster, a little bit slower, right? It looks like I'm flying now, right, over an empty sky. Make sense? Are you guys getting it? Bit of a drift. I'm giving my plane my cloud. Well, in my examples, I had multiple clouds, right, guys? I had like 3 clouds. How the hell do I do that now? Let's go back to game. I got cloud. Well, you know what? Let's add cloud 2 and cloud 3. Isn't that what I should do? Hold on. There's cloud 2 and cloud 3. Hold on. Here's cloud 2 and cloud 3. And if I add that in, I might as well add cloud 2 and cloud 3 update. I don't want to forget that this time. Okay, and now let's see. I might have to include more clouds. So here we go, some more clouds here. Wow, look at all this code, man. I'm getting crazy over here. Cloud 2 and cloud 3 and cloud 2 and cloud 2 and cloud 3. That's a lot of cloud. Look at all that code, man. That's crazy code for clouds. I added 3 clouds now. Cloud 1, cloud 2, and cloud 3, right? I wish there was a better way to do that. Absolutely is. Let's check this out. First of all, let's see what it does. I have 3 objects of the cloud class now, right? 1, 2, 3. Okay, and they all move different speeds every reset, right? This is cool. I like the effect of this, almost what we did with MailPilot, except for, you know what? There's a lot of code here, right? And they're going one on top of the other. That's good. I don't mind that, right? And it's like so. So this is kind of my we're almost there with the clouds, right? We're almost there with the objects. Okay, I like this. I like it, right? But you know what? This makes no sense to me. We need to make an array of clouds, right? That makes more sense to me. How do I do an array of clouds now? And that presents some other issues if I do cloud array, right? So I do this. I want to make a cloud array. I want to call it clouds because a cloud array should be, it's multiple clouds. It's going to be called clouds, and it's going to be an array of clouds, right? So clouds is an array of clouds, a cloud array. That's how I do the array, right? Okay, cool. I have a cloud array, and I want to instantiate different clouds. So, you know, because I'm making an array now, I want to make it so it's an array of object clouds, right? So a new objects array, right, of cloud, right? New cloud array. No, new cloud. That doesn't work out. How do I, would it be this? No. Definitely this. I like this. What do I do? This is okay. I like this. I can do this. Clouds, and maybe I'll do an index, right? Clouds, cloud, update, which means I can probably put together some kind of for loop, right? For loop, which is a for loop that runs var cloud, right, is equal to 0. So when I have 0 clouds, cloud is less than 3, because we want 3 clouds for now. Ooh, that's a hard-coded value. That's bad. And let's go to cloud plus plus, because that makes more sense. I like this idea for my this is my update, so my update will work for the clouds. I don't have clouds though, which means down here, yeah? I could, but for each gives me the value of the cloud, right, that I want to update. I could do that. I'll go back to that in a second. I like this cloud, but there is no more cloud. It has to be clouds, and it's got to be a cloud that updates. Each cloud is going to have a new cloud object inside of it. And I want to add each one of these things to the stage in a loop. That's probably what I want to do. This is why I'm telling you, you know, it's so important to do for loops and arrays. If you don't do arrays in one language, you want to understand it in other languages. For loop, let's do a for loop again, just to keep it simple. Var cloud is equal to 0. Cloud is less than 3. Cloud plus plus. And let's surround this whole thing with brackets, right? So now I have multiple clouds. I have a cloud array as opposed to one cloud. It generates multiple clouds here in an array, and each cloud object, my cloud array just defines the shape of my array as taking cloud objects as opposed to integers or numbers or strings. Because arrays are so flexible in JavaScript, even in C# and Java, that you can put objects inside of them, not just simple data types, right? So now I'm making an array of clouds as opposed to one cloud. Okay, and now they're going to be all added in here into the display list right here after my plane gets added in. So here's I'm adding in. So I'll say add clouds to game. And this is add plane to game. The plane's got to come before clouds, but after island. Plane to game. And this is where I add island to game. All right, so let's see if this has any effect on what I'm doing here. Let's kind of refresh. And then we should have the same, oh man, what's going on? How come it's not working? Let's get my errors. All right, uncaught, it cannot set property 0 of undefined in TypeScript 83. TypeScript 83, 0, cloud 0 of undefined. Well, there is no cloud 0, so I need to do something like, if I haven't defined this array, I should probably do an array of objects, right? Which is something like this. Shorthand notation, right? I could say also new array, but this the respected formatting is this equals to this. This is the right way to do it in JavaScript from a syntax perspective. You have to declare an array. I didn't create the array. I just added elements to it, which is bad, right? So I'm actually just creating it in the global scope here, all right? Again, the right thing to do would be this, equals to new array. You're going to see this as, because the array is just a, this is the array constructor, right? That doesn't take anything, and I can assign my stuff in here. But what you want to do is here. It's an array. Okay, cool. If I do that, and if I go in and add this onto stage, now it should work. Let's check that out. Yeah, baby.
Oh, wow. So
hey, from a performance perspective, I got a developer question for you guys in the back. You fancy developer types in the back, right? From a developer question, and from a performance, from a loop performance perspective, can I improve my loop performance here right now? Is there a way I can improve my loop? If you do you know, first of all, do you know the loop performance rules? Right? Here are the loop performance rules, gentlemen, in the class for all types of languages. Number 1, never calculate anything in your loop, in the head of your loop, because it'll happen every loop, every frame, right? Every time you loop, it'll calculate. You don't want to do that. You want to calculate stuff outside of your loop, the head of your loop, where it says 4. Don't do calculations here, right? Like, don't say cloud is less than A plus B. Don't do that here, because A plus B will happen every time, right? Also, don't count the length of an array in here. Don't go cloud is equal to the array length. Don't do that. That's bad. Even though it works, avoid it. Not in the loop head. Not here, right? Here's another thing. It's always faster to compare to 0 than compare to 3 or some other value. Hey, I'm comparing to 3 here. I can increase my performance by comparing to 0. How do I do such a thing? Well, I can do this. Cloud is equal to 3. As long as cloud is greater than 0, right, which I'm comparing to 0 now, cloud minus minus. That is an improvement of my loop right there. That's going to increase my performance by about 10% every time in that range. And the same thing goes with all the other loops. I should probably do that over here too, because that is proper form. Guys, I'm teaching you stuff from a game perspective that you will need to do if you want to have good games, especially because we're going to have multiple objects in your game, and every object has a loop. Holy crap, it's going to really slow things down. You don't want that to happen. All right? So let's do that. Let's check if there's anything else we're looping anywhere else. That's 1 loop, and that's 2 loops. We're doing a negative value. Hey, let's see if that screws up my thing here, right? That's bad. All right, loop performance. Woohoo, much better performance. Okay, so that's what we know. We've taken care of loop performance now. All right, we're at 141. Not really, because what for each loop does, you could do the same thing with for each. You can do the same thing with while loop, right? The one thing you don't want to do is compare. And the thing with the for each loop is you save some cycles, but the problem with the for each loop, it takes the value when you go for each in, that in, and also for each, by the way, isn't cross-browser supported in every browser, just letting you know. So be careful from the JavaScript perspective. highly don't recommend, because it may not work on IE as an example at all, right? And then you'll have no loop on IE, right? It will be available in JavaScript Harmony or ECMAScript 6, which should be coming out sometime this year or next year. But right now it's not supported cross-browser. Okay, this is the next thing. We've done this piece. I need my background. I need my some kind of island or my ocean to swing around, right? I almost have my ocean looking like my island. I don't want it to have any drift. So my island and my ocean look almost identical. Let's do that. And then we'll finish off for the day, if we can do that very quickly. And then I've almost built the whole game for you, right? Just we need scoring, we need all these other things. Okay, so, and we need collisions. We'll do collisions next day. Okay, so I've got this. I'm going to do very quickly a treatment for my ocean, just to get it done. So let's see if I can do this, and I'll update my GitHub in a second. Okay, so first of all, I need to get my island class. So here's my island class. And I need to kind of copy my island class. So I'm going to Control A for all. Oop, not this one, this one. Okay, I'm going to copy everything. And I'm going to go into my objects, right-click, and add a TypeScript file. And I'm going to call it ocean, right? And inside my ocean class, I'm going to right-click and paste. On the top, I'm going to call this ocean really quickly. We're doing the same things over and over again. I'm going to also load in the ocean GIF that's in here. Let's see if you can do this. This is a challenge for you guys to do it on your own. So there's my ocean. Okay, I got my ocean. I also got to add it into my index.html file. Here's my ocean. Inside my game, I've got to go to the top and create a reference for my ocean underneath this stuff. Okay, cool. I got to add my ocean as a game object underneath my cloud object. So I'm going to go var ocean, right? Objects.ocean with a capital, right? Here it is. In the bottom of my ocean now, this is cool. I want to add it in before my plane because it's going to be underneath my plane and underneath my island. So it's got to be added in first. Add ocean to game. Okay, cool. I got to call it ocean is equal to new objects.ocean and stage.addChild ocean, almost complete. However, I also need to do an update, which should happen before my plane and island. Up here, ocean.update, because I got to do that as well. Cool, now there's some changes that I need to make to ocean to work with the way I need it to work. It can't do, this dy should be exactly what the island should be because it can't be faster than the island. So dy stays at 5, that's cool. But I don't care about my x changing values. So this x changing values thing that happens randomly, right, where it goes in random positions, that's bad. I don't want that to happen. Let's find where that happens. And here it is. This x is at, it shouldn't start anywhere but 0, right? And also, you know what? I don't want my ocean, my width, and my height, my registration values to be anything but 0 and 0. So I'm going to get rid of this as well. Because if I set my ocean to the middle of my ocean, which is like this big, it's going to be like in the middle of my ocean, which is not good. I want it to be the top. I want my top to start off on my top left corner of my my form. So the top left is where it's going to start off. So my y value and my x value should start at the top somewhere. Okay, this is cool. This is cool. Where does my ocean start off? Well, it's got to start so that the bottom of my ocean, right? My ocean's really long, like this. The bottom of my ocean is going to meet with the bottom of my page. But the top of my ocean is got to be off screen. Off screen. So let's take a look at my ocean for a second. Here's my ocean asset. Bear with me while I do this. I got 5 minutes, right? Here's my ocean asset, my GIF. It's really long, right? If you notice, this is my GIF file. And if I want to measure this thing, right? I want to know how big this bloody thing is. Again, I can do it with something like a fireworks or something like that, because I need to measure it, right? But my guess, knowing how it is, I know my ocean, because I've done this before. I know my ocean is 3 times the height of my screen. So it's 480 times 3. What is that? 480 times 3. All right, times 3. I know that that's the case. I know it's 1440 is where it's going to start off. That's where I want my 1440 stuff. So when I reset back to 1440. Okay, that's where it's going to be. So my x coordinate is going to be my height, It's not going to be my height anymore. It's going to be at negative 1440. Well, hold on. Negative 1440 is completely off the screen. I need to get 1440 minus 480, right? 1440 minus 480. It's got to start off at 960. So that's where it's going to be. Minus 960 is where every time I reset, it's going to go there. Okay, cool. That means it's going to be a bit off the screen, but part of it's going to be seen right when I start. Then it's going to roll down at 5, and here's my check bounds. When the top of my screen, the top of my ocean meets the top of my screen, when they're equal, right? I want to reset, not when it's beyond my screen. So that means because it's going to come down like this. Here's the top of my viewport. It's going to go like this, this. It's going to get to the top of my viewport, and once it hits it, it's going to go back up here. And it's going to keep doing this over and over again. Right? So I always see ocean. I never want to not see ocean. Right? Okay, how do I do that? Well, I need to make a different check bounds. I want to say when this y, right, my y coordinate, is not greater than, but actually greater than or equal to 0, right? Greater than or equal to 0, then I want to reset. Because that means that when my y coordinate, which will become 0, that's good. That means it's moved down enough so I can reset. And that's all I need for my ocean. Let's check out if I'm cool, if I'm right. If I am, we should have everything we need to go. And I'm not cool at all. In fact, I don't see anything going on at all. Why? Did I do an ocean update? I did an ocean update. Here's my check bounds. Here's my reset. Here's my update, this.y. I do my check bounds. Hey, how come it's not? Oh. That's okay. We'll find out what the issue is. I'm going to go here to JavaScript console. No errors. Huh? Oh. Oh, a semicolon? That won't do anything. This.x is equal to 0 means that the x coordinate is the top left corner of the screen, and my y coordinate is 960. That's wrong. It should be minus 960. Right, and that's the thing that caused my issues. And if I reset now, right, then I should be able to see my ocean, right? And now if you notice, it keeps going. It looks like it's going forever, and it's timed with the island. It gives the same timing as the island in terms of drift. Yeah. So it looks like the island and the ocean are together. Yeah. So guys, 2 hours. We built our first bit of MailPilot. Right? Didn't take long, right? And if you notice, everything is working the way it's supposed to work. Next time we'll conquer collisions, and we'll also talk about how to create an asset manager class, and maybe even a collision manager class, which we need to do for the next piece. And maybe some text. We have to cover text. How do we text? How do we do scores? And all that kind of stuff. And that's it for me for today.